afternoon from the majestic valley of Cagayan here in the Philippines. My felicitations and profound thanks to Shree Shivaji Arts, Commerce and Science College for spearheading this timely and relevant conference. Of course, I also would like to thank the organizers led by Dr. Warkad and all the people behind the scene for making this a success. I have titled my presentation Significant C's of Online Teaching in the New Normal because I intended it to be more encompassing. What are we going to dwell on? COVID-19 has transformed our academic milieu. Definitely, we are ushered into the more promising world of online learning and teaching. And for us, passionate and committed teachers, we have no other choice but to adapt to the new normal. In doing so, we have to accept and consider all the realities of our students, especially those who come from rural areas, the underprivileged ones. So, let's begin. In this presentation, I will discuss each problem along with the possible solutions. And please be open-minded. The first problem is weak internet connectivity. We all know that some students in rural areas or from rural areas do not have internet connection, while others have unstable internet access. And so, how can we address this? First, we have to prepare learner-friendly modules or instructional materials. Because whether we like it or not, there will always be students who cannot afford smartphones and laptops. And so, we have to be more compassionate with our students. We have to understand the plight of our poor students who don't have smartphone or laptop. We have to provide them user-friendly modules and instructional materials that they can study at the comfort of their homes during their free time. Another possible solution is to upload videos of lessons in our virtual classrooms. I'll explain more on that later on. We have to bear in mind, fellow educators, that interested students will find a way to learn their lessons as long as they have the course syllabus along with the user-friendly learning materials, even if they don't have internet connection, even if their internet connectivity is weak. Of course, we do need to understand that as compassionate professionals, we should provide students with learning modules, reading materials, etc. As some of our students in rural areas have unstable access to the internet, or worse, some of them do not have access to the internet. Another problem that I perceive in online teaching and learning is lack of face-to-face collaboration and interaction. Well, definitely, we have to encourage interaction and collaboration, right? We cannot simply focus on independent learning or pair work. We have to vary our activities in our classes. Is it possible? Well, yes, definitely. We use our creativity. How? Well, we can empower students to collaborate through WhatsApp, Skype, Viber, etc. For example, they can vlog on the same topic. We did this in Oman, in the Sultanate of Oman. Students used WhatsApp or Viber, and they worked together. They shared their videos, and in groups, they collected these videos and came up with very fascinating outputs. We just need to be optimistic. Let students use their creativity. For example, you can let students collaborate with one another, yeah, by just recording their video clip of video calls. In that way, you can maybe tell them to just speak English exclusively. In that way, you can provide an opportunity for them, a genuine opportunity for them to use the language. We have to bear in mind that language and literature are best learned and appreciated when we awaken the child in us. That means we sustain our curiosity, tap our creativity, and freely explore meanings and language structures. Our students will better appreciate literature, particularly if we let them interpret poems, for example, using their multiple intelligences. Maybe others can interpret a poem through a dance. Another would interpret a poem through a song, and so on and so forth. Another problem is dishonesty among students. Of course, in our classes, some students tend to become dishonest. We do understand that. That's why we teachers are there to guide them, right? So, how can we address this? We have to provide open-ended questions. In that way, we can easily see and observe those who have similar responses. Another is to inform students whenever you see similarities in their outputs. Well, if you do that, you deter your students to compare their outputs. You also need to conduct online assessment sessions to check the progress of your students. If it's possible, of course. Yes, a caveat. If it's not possible, then especially this new normal, we have to find a way. Maybe you can schedule a particular day where you can meet one or two of your students at a separate time. Another problem is, of course, dishonesty among students. Still, we have to encourage the submission of drafts of compositions, paragraphs, poems, etc. We should not encourage them to focus on the products, on outputs. We have to encourage them to enjoy the journey, to enjoy the process of writing essays, poems. For example, if you ask them to write a bio poem, let them submit their drafts. Let them improve their drafts until such time that you see improvement, enhancement in their poetry. Another remedy is to require audio or video recording of their creative performance tasks. For example, you can let them declaim. You can let them recite a poem. You can let them sing. Definitely, there are many other things that you can do if you are open to creative tasks. We have to bear in mind, fellow educators, that teachers ought to inform students whenever they sense that cheating or comparing of answers take place. In a way, it will deter them to depend on one another. We can't really stop resourceful and cunning students from collaborating with their classmates. Definitely, right? We love interaction, but we have to make sure that when they interact, they have integrity. they have honesty. We can always underscore the importance of both. Another problem is checking of numerous outputs. If you have your virtual classroom, or maybe if they submit to you in your college at the same time, or if they don't submit promptly, then definitely the outputs of your students would pile up. And it would be very difficult for you to mark papers, to provide feedback. And so what's the remedy? You have to check outputs regularly. In that way, your outputs, the outputs rather, of your students won't pile up. Of course, you have to remind them to submit their outputs on time. We have to give due consideration though to those students from the rural areas. If they cannot submit online, then definitely tell them to submit on site. Let them submit in bulk. For example, if your students come from a far-flung area in Maharashtra, or here in the Philippines, if my students come from Marabura, Alcala, it's quite far. Definitely, I would let them compile their work through a portfolio. They can come up with a language and literature portfolio that they can submit at the end of the semester, that they can show me during the semester, so that definitely I can see their academic progress. I can follow up their academic progress. For you as a teacher, you can organize student submissions by putting videos together, audios together, essays together, and so on. For students, definitely, when they come up with portfolios, they do organize their outputs. Another is be patient and generous in giving compliments. We have to understand that our students who come from rural areas encounter difficulties, challenges, just to attend our online classes if they can. So, we have to be compassionate with them. Understand that sometimes they cannot join your classes. It happened to me in my MA classes last summer, last May, here in the Philippines. Some of my MA students, teachers, did not join my class. Why? Well, they have laptops, but they don't have internet access. And so, I was compassionate with them. I gave them modules, and they were required to submit reflection papers and other requirements during their particular free time. We have to bear in mind that efficient teachers work smarter, not harder, than the inefficient ones. We should manage our time effectively. The last problem that I perceived in terms of online learning and teaching is difficulty to communicate with students. Yeah, definitely. One of the speakers earlier mentioned that some students do not have their smartphone or laptop. Well, definitely. It's really an issue. You cannot communicate with those students. But can you do something in order to reach out to these underprivileged students? Definitely. What can you do? You let students communicate with each other through other modes. Maybe one student from Maharashtra can communicate with the other students from Maharashtra who are nearby, especially those who don't have smartphones or laptops. We have to inform others. We have to make them responsible citizens. Another is to create a virtual learning environment. So your queries, suggestions, and clarifications are welcome. Thank you very much.